When we are talking about the sociological theories of human development, it is very interesting that we are talking about human development, and we have two aspects about human development: individual development and social development. And in social development, there is an interaction between the society and individuality. And these interactions finally ends to a summation of the traits gained by society, gained by nurturing, and the traits which are rooted in the nature. So nature not versus nurture, nature mixed with nurture. And also we have four aspects to human development. At first, symbolic interactions perspective on socialization. The third part is symbolic interactions perspective on socialization. We're talking about the self concept with the definition of self and the components of self as we talked about it in the previous minutes. Self concept is the totality of our beliefs and feelings about ourselves. We talk about it. Now we have two good and very basic theories about the self concept, about the shaping self concept, about shaping self confidence, self esteem, self efficacy, and self image, on what is the final self concept about ourselves. At first, one of the greatest American sociologists, in the name of Charles Cooley, at the beginning of the 20th century, he was, I think, the eighth president of American Sociological Association in 1918. Yeah, 1918. Uh, in the middle of First World War, he became the president of American Sociological Association, Charles Cooley. Charles Cooley talked about the looking glass self. It is very, very interesting, simple, obvious, and also so intellectualistic, so intelligent, looking at the shaping of self. It is looking glass self. He says that the way in which a person's sense of self is derived from the perceptions of others. Charles Cooley says that it is very important that how do you think about the way other people are looking at you, and how do you think about um, what the appearance you are showing to other people. So interactions between your perception about your appearance, your perception about how other people look at you, and about your perception about the way other people are looking at you. You can see this picture, it is very good. At first, we imagine how we appear to other people, real self and apparent self. And we have two types of judgments here. We imagine how other people judge the appearance that we think we present. At first, we imagine how we appear to other people and how we think about their judgment about the way we present, not about we appear, we present to other people. It is good or bad. If we think the evaluation is favorable, our self-concept is enhanced. Yes, I'm handsome. If we think the evaluation is unfavorable, our self-concept is diminished, is reduced to the lowest part and lower part in contrast to the previous part. It is a very smart interpretation for how we shape our self-image and self-concept. It is looking glass self. Our self is shaped by the concept and by the content of the looking glass. The next theory, and very important theory in sociology, is George Herbert Mead, the role-taking theory. George Herbert Mead is one of the greatest of the history of sociology. He said about role taking, not role playing. He talked about role taking and the role of role taking in shaping the vision and the image of yourself in yourself. It is called self concept or self image. This theory says that uh, when a person mentally assumes the role of another person or group in order to understand the world from the person's or group's point of view. Also, we are talking about the sociological aspects to human being and human development. But there is a very good humanistic technique in psychotherapy. It is called empathy, not sympathy, empathy. Empathy is a technique during that the therapist, the counselor, the coach, the mentor sees himself in the roles, in the location, in the situation, in the position, mental situation, mental position of his or her client or coachee or patient to understand what is happening in his or her client's mind, client's heart, client's even sometimes body. It is empathy. Role taking, it is something like empathy in psychotherapy. Means role taking is the process by which a person mentally assumes the role of another person or group. Why? In order to understand the world from that person's or that group's point of view. It has three stages: preparatory stage, play stage, and game stage. In preparatory stage, you are getting prepared and you are preparing yourself to accept the role of that person or that group that you want to understand, their atmosphere, their mental syntax, their mindset, their feelings, and other. And after that, you enter the play game, entering the play game, and finally, it is game stage. Game stage. In the game stage, you are playing the game instead of that person's to understand that group atmosphere. Functionalist perspectives on socialization says and talk about three part and three stages of socialization: primary socialization, secondary socialization, and tertiary socialization. Primary socialization refers to the process of learning that begins at birth and occurs in the home and family. The significant others around you. It is primary. It is related to the primary, to the first years of your life. That your elite, your kings, your queens are your family members, are your primary caregivers. But totally generally, it is about your family members. After that, with beginning of the schools, we are going to the stage of secondary socialization. Occurs with teenagers or young adults and refers to the process of learning that takes place outside the home. Inside the home, for teenagers and young adults, for college years or first years of university, you will have secondary socialization. Occurs with teenagers or young adults and refers to the process of learning that take place outside the home. But tertiary socialization takes place when adults move into a new setting where they must accept certain ideas or engage in specific behaviors that are appropriate to that specific setting. It is talking about the changing circumstances. Sometimes it happens, sometimes does not. But pay attention that tertiary socialization is always with a critical period of life. It happens within a crisis, and sometimes not only the crisis needs tertiary socialization, but tertiary socialization creates new crises. From the aspects of human development and personal development, tertiary socialization is very helpful for everybody. But it contains a lot of pains, a lot of sufferings, a lot of distresses. Why? Because during the primary socialization and secondary socialization, you will learn how to act, how to treat properly with your ordinary and noun society, family members, community, job, and other parts. And gradually, step by step, it will become your comfort zone, you know, your social rules. But when you go to new setting, not new environment, new setting, new conditions for survival, new conditions for communication, new conditions, circumstances for taking and giving. It's very new. It is. You should forget your past. You cannot forget your past. You should know new things about the future. So it is tertiary socialization. New setting, new starting, new skills, sometimes new beliefs, sometimes new mindsets, sometimes new mental syntax, sometimes, and not only sometimes, a lot of times, and sometimes always, you need new experiences, new changes, and new learning. These are at the same line. At first experience, after that learning, after that change, or maybe experience, learning, change. It is scientific of learning. We say that when there is learning, you should see the changes. If you cannot see any changes, it is not learning. But the way of changing for learning is experience and rehearsal. Sometimes we have some relatively consistent changes, but it is not related to experience or rehearsal. So these are the main components of learning: experience, change, learning. Okay, so tertiary socialization is very important, and sometimes these are the hot seasons of your life, not normal seasons. Everybody experiences primary socialization and secondary socialization. Everybody. It is a natural course of life, natural course of human development. A lot of people also experience tertiary socialization, but the degree of need to change is different from one person to another person, from one culture to another culture. Conflict perspectives on socialization says socialization adds to false consciousness, a lack of awareness about how class influences all aspects of social lives. In this aspect about socialization, we are talking about false consciousness. What's called false consciousness? False consciousness is lack of or loss of awareness about how class influences all aspects of social life. Why? Because from this aspect, from this approach to the process of socialization, you should know about the role and important role of social class, gender class, and racial class, and ethnical class, and other parts and other types of social classes. the importance of the role of these classes on the process of socialization. It's very important. It's very important. A lot of people are influenced by their class. A lot of people. And the social class and other parts of classes, as we talk about it, are one of the main influencing factors for shaping the concept of self in one person, for shaping the way and interpretation one can have about his or her social communications and their hope for the future and love of learning and skill training and other parts that are combined part, mixed part, interacted part, not only about uh, the part that you cannot see easily in the future. So conflict perspective also talk about the role of social class to the to shaping socialization, social interactions, and it is called false consciousness. It is not real consciousness or true consciousness. Sometimes also it is real but not true. We have a concept quick review. Social psychological theories, Freud's theory, Piaget cognitive development. Also, Freud's psychoanalytic perspective, the human development in the Freud psychoanalytic perspective is called psychosexual development, the title of the theory about human development. In psychoanalytical Freud's theory is called psychosexual human development or development. And Piaget cognitive development, Kohlberg's stage of moral development, and Gilligan about gender and moral development. In symbolic interaction theory, we have Kohler's looking glass self, myth through a stage of self-development, and functional theory, Parsons and Metron's view, and finally conflict theories are based on Marx's works. At the two last parts, we have agents of socialization and future. Agents of socialization are the persons, groups, or institutions that teach us what we need to know in order to participate in society. They are source of knowledge, source of experience for the process of socializing. At first, the family. Second, the school, the teachers, the classmates. Third, peer groups, sometimes in the school, a lot of times out of the school. And mass media, this is very important now. And gender socialization is the aspect of socialization that contains specific messages and practices concerning the nature of being female or male in a specific group or society. Gender socialization has a very important, deep, and basic and crucial role in shaping your gender identity and gender role. We have some specific problems about this gender role. Sometimes boys and girls doesn't accept this social role because they think, yes, for example, about the feminism and equality um, for boys and girls, for female and male. So gender socialization has a very important impact on the uh, gender role and gender concepts. And sometimes we have a very chaotic situation for identify and fix and sometimes mix our gender role. You can, for example, see that in different states of United States and also in other countries. We don't have any flat, any clear socialization process for identify, for example, for the same-sex genders, for the same-sex people. A lot of people with this trait, it is not illness, it is not disorder, it is trait, personality trait, biological trait. It is not illnesses or it is not, for example, mental disorder. When you have some same-sex attitude to yourself or to other people, it is not so good or not so bad. It is your nature, your personal trait, your biological and personality and mental traits. In this aspect, we see even in one of the most liberal countries like America, we don't have any good or any clear behaviors from the society to this aspect of human being. Some states are very liberal, thinking very liberal about it. Some states are not liberal, they are very radical and dogmatism about the role of society in shaping the sense and the feeling of somebody to himself or herself, heterosexuality or homosexuality. So, socialization after the middle years of 20th century, especially after beginning the 21st century, it is very important for sociologists and also psychologists to consider the role of social interaction and social connection and social sometimes defense against gender socialization. What are the specific roles a society needs and expect from the specific gender, from a specific sexual nature? What are specific roles, social roles? And again, about racial ethnic socialization. It is something like gender socialization. Very specific social expectations from one specific race, one specific ethnicity, one specific gender is the aspect of socialization that contains specific messages and practices concerning the nature of one's racial or ethnic status as it relates to our identity, interpersonal relationships, and location in the social hierarchy. And socialization through the life course, we have five or sometimes four periods of life: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, late adulthood, and ageism. Anticipatory science socialization is the process by which knowledge and skills are learned for future culture, for future goals. It is highly recommended to studies about social clock. Social clock is a very good and very consciousness raising concept about the social expectation of social members, of a society members, social members or group members, and based upon their age. For example, what are the major social expectation from one person at the age of 20, or at the age of 30, or at the age of 40? This is social clock. It is very interesting to know about social clock, but um, by knowing about your society social clock, you can adopt and sometimes also not adopt and accommodate with your society's social clock. And resocialization is the process of learning a new and different set of attitudes, different set, values, and behaviors from those in one's background and previous experience. It is voluntary or involuntary. The most criteria, the biggest sample, biggest example, the best example for resocialization is for immigrants and refugees. Immigrants and refugees going from one culture to another culture. It is not uh, voluntary. Sometimes it is very mandatory and sometimes involuntary. You should re-socialize yourself because if you cannot do it, you can lose your social life. And it is the greatest question. What will socialization look like in the future? When you are thinking about this question, thinking about the cyberspace, it's very important. Not at the very far future, at the near future of human being. We can see cyberspace not as the second space of life, as the first space of life. And you will see dead streets and markets and shopping centers, everything that you can see outside yourself as an objective matter. It will be the second part of your life. Why? Because with this rapidly changing world, cyber world, you will experience everything in a new message and a new way of experience. As the second word, no, as the first experiential word. So when you are feeling and you are thinking about this socialization in the future, highly recommended to consider and to think about the virtual aspects of socialization. It is very important. Now in 2020, in 2020, for example, for teenagers, maybe sometimes for young adults, we can see that, for example, mass media and cyberspace and, for example, Instagram has a very important and sometimes deep influence on shaping this social identity and the process of socialization. Thank you to be with me during this session. I hope that it is good for you and useful for you. And we will talk together in the next sessions and next episode. Bye bye.